part of it was just very fortunate. I would say, one piece of it is having a network. Having spent 20 years in the sector, you meet people, you know people, you become friends with people, you have colleagues, you have a network. And because I was engaged in that sector for so long, I had an existing network that I was able to reach out to. I know not everybody has that going in, and I'll talk a little bit more about networking later on, but I did start off with a network. I found really, Kasia, in looking back on this, that there are pretty much 5 keys that for me have been paramount in making this work. And before I get to them, let me kind of lay an overarching element to this. We're talking about coaching in the nonprofit sector, with nonprofit organizations and leaders being your clients. And the first time that people hear that, they think, well, there's no money in the nonprofit sector. They're nonprofit. They don't have any money to spend. They're about feeding the poor and sheltering the homeless and helping those that have health problems. And they are, but it's a real misnomer to think that nonprofit organizations don't have money. It's also a misnomer to think that nonprofits can't spend money on anything other than what their mission is. There are 1.5 million nonprofits in the United States alone. So the market is there. These are organizations. These are businesses. These are not just charitable organizations, chambers of commerce, civic clubs, educational foundations, museums, associations, the arts, all kinds of nonprofit organizations, 1.5 million of them in the United States, and continuing to grow. The second thing people need to understand is that the nonprofit sector, in the United States alone, holds about $3.5 trillion with a T in assets annually. $3.5 trillion in assets. They raise somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 trillion a year in revenue. And those are big dollars if you think about the entire nonprofit sector. So again, there's a market there. Then the question is, well, are they spending that money, though, on anything other than their programs? Here's the answer to that. Annually, over $200 billion are spent by nonprofit organizations on things not directly to the clients that they're serving. So let me say that again. $2 trillion in revenue annually, and they're spending 200 billion of that, more than 200 billion of that, on things other than the direct service to the client. When people hear that at first, they think, well, that's terrible. They should be spending all the money on the client, but they can't. Nonprofits have employees they have to pay. They have buildings they have to pay rent on. They have utilities that they have to pay. They have marketing costs and fundraising costs, and they have technology costs. They have to be in business. You have to spend money. One of the things that I've taken it on to help nonprofits understand is that one of the things they need to invest in is their leadership capability and their strategic thinking and their strategic planning. So they have about $100 billion in profit at the end of each year. These are Internal Revenue Service figures. You can Google them and find them anywhere online. The point is there is a market there. So that's really an important concept to make. My 5 keys, Kasia, were this, and I'll pause between each one of them to give an opportunity for any questions or clarification that we might need. The first thing for me was that I am focusing on the nonprofit sector, which means I need to focus on mission before money. And that sounds counterintuitive when you're trying to build a business. And when you're first starting out a coaching business, you're thinking, I've got to make the money. But what I found was that by not focusing on the money as the top priority, I made the money. Nonprofit organizations focus on what's called a double bottom line. Now, people in business understand bottom line. The bottom line is, how much money do I have at the end of the year? What's the profit that I'm putting out to my shareholders? Or if it's a small business, what's my net profit over loss? That's the bottom line of a balance sheet or an income statement. In the nonprofit sector, we operate on what's called a double bottom line. And that is to say that part one of the double bottom line is that financial profit and loss. It is important. And nonprofit organizations do need to make a profit. They're not in business to make a profit, but they need to bring in more money than they spend, just like any other business. The second part of the bottom line is social impact.